I'm breaking every single one of my rules for survival doing this, and yet I know if I don't, I'll die of hunger in a few weeks, or worse. They'll find me when I'm sleeping and carry me off to where they dwell nestled in the tunnels beneath the city. I stare into the depths below me, nothing to make out but the now motionless escalator stairs, poking their way out of the blackness. I take one last deep breath, savor the clean, crisp February air, and make my way down to find Nate. Nate's the greatest survival tool any scavenger can have. A full-bred German shepherd who can hear a pin drop a mile away and smell danger just as far. I found Nate in an apartment on the 6th day of the crossing, as it was termed by the media at the time. By this time, the portals had opened across the planet in every nation, and all manner of demon began to cross over. I had hidden in my apartment for as long as I could, but had been too scared to leave to stock up on supplies in the first days, but had nothing but a Nutri-Grain bar and week-old milk laying in the fridge, and I had no choice but to look for food. I searched the apartments around my own, tiptoeing from one to another, almost vomiting at the chaos and gore left in each, finding little or nothing in the majority of all of them. In room number 304, where I had seen a young family with a little girl move in the month before, I found canned food and bottles of spring water. The carpet was soaked in blood, but no bodies. I now know where they were brought and what was done to them. And I thank God I didn't know at the time, or I would have never left the building. In what I took to be the young girl's room, I heard whimpering coming from a small cabinet by the bedside. As I opened the small sliding door on it, I found a puppy, no more than 10 or 12 weeks old. Immediately, I fell in love, which is a rare thing when you're standing in an apartment block caked in the remains of its tenants. But ever since then, he's been my closest companion. But no less than 20 minutes ago, one of those demonic spawn grabbed him as I was searching a broken-down ambulance near the hospital. I heard a short, painful whimper and rushed out to the street, only to see the gangly, malnourished limbs of one of their stalkers vanish into the entrance of the subway on Grot Street. They don't kill and eat animals the way they do humans. They use them to change them into one of their own, altering their bodies. Dogs are always favored for their tracking skills and have marked the end for many a survival. And that's why I need to find him. If not to save him, then to release him from the torture and cruelty from the bondage that these things entail. The further I travel down, the stronger the smell of rotten decay becomes, leaving a sickly bitter taste in the back of my throat. In the past, I would have vomited, or had to smear vapor rub on my upper lip to withstand it. But now I've become so accustomed to it, it's like second nature to me. Every few steps I find myself standing on the withered remains of those who tried to escape the subway when the portals opened and they crossed over. Those who were there trampled beneath the feet of the swarming crowd like rats escaping through the cracks of a burning building. A bone breaks, cracking beneath my boots every 7 or 6 steps, and I almost stumbled downwards on a few. My flashlight only shines 10 or 12 feet ahead of me, and ahead of that, I'm met with an unending darkness. It's like this for 10 or 15 minutes until finally, I reach the subway floor. The smell is at its worst down here, and the floors are littered with bones and filth left over by those ungodly creatures further down the tracks. And suddenly, an inhuman shriek rings out from somewhere not far in the darkness, and my heart drops to my stomach like a ton of lead. I turn off my light and go prone on the cold tiles, my heart thumping against my ribcage and the floor beneath me. I hear a soft pitter-patter running along the ceiling somewhere to my right, and listen as it vanishes almost certainly down the tracks into the depths, perhaps to alert its demonic brethren further down. I stand up slowly, almost expecting to see the creature jump out of the darkness towards me. But nothing, and after a reassuring deep breath, I make my way to the edge of the tracks and back down. I twist the top of my cheap steel flashlight, and as the light begins to dim, I make my way down the tracks and towards their home. To what I almost know to be my death. The shrieks and hungry growls I hear on the way should be enough to force me to turn around and run as fast as I can back up the tunnel and back to the surface. But I can't abandon Nate, because he has never abandoned me. He's always been loyal, and if I know I do, the shame and guilt I'll hold will kill me quicker than any demon. After what seems like hours, but probably no longer than 20 minutes, I come to a junction in the tracks and a train carriage, once lit up like a Christmas tree, full of commuters going about their day. It now lies decrepit and lifeless, and whatever may be alive within certainly isn't human. The door of the carriage is torn open, hanging by no more than one or two of its hinges. I make my way past the door and into the carriage, and the first evidence of those things lays in front of me. Hundreds of prints overlapping one another, left in blood from feet and paws, and things that resemble hooves, like those of a pig, but much larger. In some, you can make out the long claws and talons used to disembowel and dismember people like myself. People foolish enough to enter their domain. The howls are louder and closer now, no more than 4, maybe 500 meters in front of me. I don't walk. I crouch down and make my way through the carriage. Small pieces of entrails and viscera lay strewn across the floor of the carriage. I do my best not to stand on them, but still feel the stickiness of the congealed blood and fluids beneath my feet, and I could hear them just outside the carriages. At either side, the crunching of bone and soft, wet sound of them devouring flesh, snorts and growls as they do so. I feel like standing up and running. My whole body and mind are screaming to, but as hard as it is, I ignore it and push forward, slowly but surely, following in what I can only hope to be the steps of Nate's abductor. I see the end of the carriage in front of me and once again go prone and begin crawling towards it, the flashlight slightly illuminating the sides of the door. When I finally make it in, I'm met with a sight I know will never leave me until the day I die. In front of me, facing away, crouched over Nate, the figure of the stalker, the skin of its back pale with a sickly green hue, sores and scabs appearing at intervals across it, and its spine jutting out beneath its irregular long body. Its gangly arms lay by its side, and reminds me of a ghoulish painting I had once seen years before the crossing, in a basement close to my old home in Boston, by an artist called Pickman. In front of it, all around, lay numerous piles of bodies and body parts, and on the top and in between them, demons of all kinds, horns and snouts jutting out from between the mess, while others were covered with thick dark fur, slick with the blood of those poor souls brought down here. Near the top of the closest pile, 8 or 9 meters in front of me, a demon lays face down with appendages like that of an insect connected to a body which, although malformed, appears human. But all recognition of humanity fades away as I see the antenna on its head like that of a mantis or a beetle, its head buried in the torso of what looks like the remains of a woman. Now at first, I think Nate is dead, but I see the slow and steady rise and fall of his chest. He's still alive. I then realize this is my one and only chance to save him before he's brought deeper into the tunnels, towards whatever dark and evil thing that waits to change him into a creature like those around me. They don't appear to notice the dim light from the flashlight, and I leave it on the floor beside me facing the back of the stalker. I slip my hand down my side to my belt and slowly withdraw the military knife from the holster beneath it, and I slowly pulled myself forward. Every second seems like minutes, and slowly I swing my legs down from the carriage and find myself outside, my shadow now printed on the back of the stalker in front of me. I know one mistake, one wrong move or step, and I'll alert it in every single creature around me. I feel the sweat begin to build on my forehead and spend a split second planning my attack. I creep to the side of this creature's back, and as my foot steps forward, simultaneously, I bring one arm forward along the side of its head with my hand open to cover the creature's mouth, as the other stabs upward, the tip of the blade slicing through the floor of its mouth and up into its brain. I feel its lips move beneath my hand as it attempts to let out a cry, but it's too late, and I feel its body go limp and drop to the floor beneath me. The few seconds afterwards is the most alert I have ever been. I wait to hear the howls of revenge from the other demons sealing my fate, but they never come, and they continue to feast, unaware to what has happened. I slide my hands under Nate and pick him up slowly and carefully and cradle him between my chest and shoulders and slowly crawl back into the darkness of the carriage. The journey back through the tunnels is twice as fast as the journey down, and although still aware of the dangers of alerting one of the creatures, I quicken my pace. Before I know it, I'm hoisting myself back on the platform next to the tracks, and I feel Nate's body begin to twitch and jerk against mine. And just as I near the top of the escalators, and I start to feel the sunlight from the surface shine on my face, Nate's eyes flicker and open, and he licks the side of my cheek.